Welcome, everybody. I'm Scott Patton, Life Enthusiast. You're watching the Life Enthusiast Hangout, restoring vitality to you and to the planet. We've got a very special guest today, but before we bring him on, we're going to bring on Martin Patella, Life Enthusiast Health Coach. Hey, Martin, how are you doing today?
Doing great. Thank you, Scott. Yet another day we're alive, and that's a good thing.
And I'm in paradise. I happen to be in Hawaii for 2 weeks, so...
and up to my ankles in snow.
Yeah. No snow, lots of bikinis, lots of sun. It was amazing. I might even just, in the edited version, put a picture of some of the waves that were... I'm up on the north shore of Oahu, and the waves were crashing, and they were going up 4 or 5 stories high just offshore on these reefs. It was absolutely spectacular. So
okay,
I'm happy. I got my vitamin D, and I'm really excited about some of the things we're going to be talking about today. So I'm going to hand that part over to you, and you can introduce our guest.
I would like to introduce Rich Richardson, the founding partner of Dose of Nature, a company that we have recently taken on as one of our target partners for dealing with cannabis or hemp products, especially the CBD. Without further ado, I would like Rich to tell us about Dose of Nature, their history, and why they are as great as they are. Rich.
Scott, Martin, thank you so much for having me on. We formed Dose of Nature June of 2014, so coming up 7-8 months ago. And the impetus behind it was I had been working for 7-8 years on a technology called the hydrosome technology. One of the issues common with liposomes or liposomes was that they're embedded in fat. They take a long time to get absorbed into the stomach, and so we were looking at using water as a delivery mechanism as opposed to lipids or fats. And so what we did is we developed the hydrosome, and we've been working over 7 years to use this technology in agriculture, nutrition, for humans, animals. And just fortuitously, last June, I met up with Dr. Rick Potts, who's my founding partner at Dose of Nature, and we decided to look at applying this technology to cannabidiol, or CBD from hemp. One of the issues with CBD that's common in a lot of the products you see in the market is that the products come in a syringe. It's like tar. You have to put it on your tongue. It tastes terrible, and especially for kids with pediatric cancer, cancer patients, people with compromised GI tracts, they just cannot absorb that oil well, and it, since it costs more than the price of gold, it seems like a waste to just excrete it. And so we put together a product, and we did our first trials last June, and it sort of led to now we have a Dose of Nature, and I think what our specialty is a very, very bioavailable form. It's water soluble. It's easy for kids, cancer patients. It's absorbed out of the stomach, but it uses this hydrosome technology.
Great. Thank you for explaining the Dose of Nature technology. Awesome. We're going to post this up on the page. And then specifically, you currently have 4 products.
Yes.
And so let's just take them on one at a time.
Sure. Where we start is at the baseline is what we call the CBD, or the hemp in base oils. So coconut oil, hemp seed oil, olive oil, apricot oil. And so what we do is, one of the things that I think makes us unique at Dose of Nature is we don't just take the basic 17 or 22% CBD paste. We actually go through an optimized CO2 extraction process. We take it to about a 40% concentration, and there we take it through a de-waxing process where we're able to pull out the waxes, some of the non-bioavailable resins, so that we end up with starting a 65 to 75% paste, or an oil. It's gorgeous in what it does. With that as our starting point, without the waxes and resins, are what we call the RedStrap oil, and RedStrap we call it because it looks like a lot like blackstrap molasses. So we're calling it RedStrap. It's red. It's gorgeous. We are able to dissolve that in concentrations and dissolve it in these fixed oil bases, so that the particles, the dissolved cannabinoids are actually, we measure them through a backscatter spectrometer if it matters, but we can get the dissolved particle size down to around 2 to 3 nanometers, which makes it immediately bioavailable as it passes through the system, so it can be used at the cellular level. And that's one of the things we're proudest about. It tastes good, it's gorgeous, it's clear, there's no floating particles, and it becomes very easy for people to take.
Do you have a favorite? Like you have these 4 flavors. You said you have olive, apricot, hemp itself, and coconut.
Yeah.
Or is it just up to the individual to choose what they want?
Yeah, it's up to the individual. So coconut oil is by far my favorite. It's very light on the tongue. It rolls off so nicely. The only problem with it is we use 100% pure organic cold pressed olive oil, and so it is solid at room temperature. And so some people love the flavor, but it's a little bit of a hassle because you actually have to melt it each time you take it. Apricot oil is a favorite for some of our cancer patients in terms of it's an apricot kernel oil. Olive oil is something that for people that like it, you could mix it with balsamic vinegar and put it on a salad. It's a delicious product. The hemp seed oil is good for people with a lot of mental or brain issues, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, a brain cancer, something like that. Because of the omega-3 and the omega-6 that are natural in the hemp seed oil, it's very good for any kind of anxiety, anything to do with the brain, but it's by far the strongest flavor, and just some people find it a little bit strong for them. And so we just tried to provide a couple of oils that we felt, would sort of meet different people's needs.
Great. Beautiful. Okay, let's talk about the sweet CBD drops. Let's define why you bothered to create the product.
Okay. The sweet CBD was formed where we decided that the oils, especially sick patients, autistic children, cancer patients who've been through chemotherapy, epileptic children, they have a hard time digesting oils. They just don't have the GI support, the enzymes to absorb oils well in the stomach. And so one of the things that we've done is we decided we take the 60-70% CBD oil, and we actually go through a multiplex bonding process that embeds it in glycerin, 100% pure vegetable glycerin, so that it's water soluble. And so people that object to the flavor, it's easy. We call it sweet, not because we add any sweeteners, but just the whole nature of glycerin. It's this silky, smooth, sweet-tasting thing. There's no glycemic impact on the body, but it's delicious, and it can be dissolved in juices. You could add flavors to it, and so it makes it very easy for children to take. One of the other nice things about having it be embedded in glycerin is that glycerin is similar to alcohol in structure, and it's absorbed very quickly out of the stomach. And so with the sweet CBD, people that take it, you just drop it on your tongue or put it in juice, you'll find it start to take effect within 3 to 5 minutes. It takes effect much quicker than the oil products. And so just the quickness to impact, the sooner you can feel it, the better. And having it be water soluble is a huge benefit to a lot of people.
Fantastic. Great job. Coming along beautifully. So let's go to the next one. The product that you also have is called Nano CBD Shooter and Chaser. Are they buddies?
They are. So let me start with the Chaser first. And so the Chaser, what we do is we take that 60-70% CBD oil and we embed it in what we call a hydrosome. If you're familiar with liposomes, liposomes, depending on how people pronounce it, where you have nanoparticles embedded in lipids or fats, we actually take that oil, and it is a liquid, an oil, and we can actually embed the oil inside micro water clusters. And it's a little bit tricky, and so it's not an emulsification, there's no mycelials, it is literally the fats embedded in water. and it's stable. So as it sits, it doesn't separate. It's absorbed like water out of the stomach, but it's absorbed directly at a size that can be utilized at the cellular level without any pathways out of the small intestine to get absorbed. It's something that's functional at the cellular level virtually immediately. And it's something we're the proudest of. And so for people that are taking oils or the sweet CBD, what we call the chaser is that you could take this just the nano form. It's only about 1 milligram of CBD. It's a very small dose, but one of the things is when you nanosize it, you get what we call an amplification effect. So, for example, a micronutrient that might be, I'll try to get my hands up here, 150 nanometers in size. When you nanosize it, you get 150,000 times the number of particles. And so in 1 teaspoon of our liquid, you have more CBD particles or hydrosomes than you have cells in your body. And so what we find also through research is that when you take the nano form of the hydrosome, it also increases the bioavailability and the cellular uptake of the other macronutrients. So the chaser is meant just to be a pure nano product that you would use after taking the sweet CBD, or after taking an oil, you would chase it with this nanoparticle to enhance the uptake. The shooter product, which is sort of very similar in nature, what we do is we created a pre-combined, a premix of the sweet CBD and the nano chaser. And so this Nano CBD Shooter has both 1 dose of sweet CBD and then 2 ounces of the nano. And this is something that, as we met with different doctors and different people doing research, for example, in schizophrenia or anxiety, one of the issues is the slow uptake of oils. That someone who has anxiety, they need something before they go to bed. You can't just take an oil and wait 2 hours for it to be absorbed and to take effect. And so there's just sometimes when, before you leave the house, before you take your autistic son and you're going out to dinner and you need him to be calm, it's not something you can always pre-dose. And so with the shooter, with the sweet, the macro, and the nano, it's something that you can take, and people by and large, you'll feel the effect literally within a minute or two, a calming, a warm feeling. People sit back in their chair. It's not a sleepy feeling, but it's a very powerful immediate impact for the CBD, which is very useful for a lot of people. And so it's just the shooter, which is I think our favorite product, that's one where it's just a premix of the macro particle plus the nano.
Awesome. Just as I'm hearing you talk, it reminds me of some other technologies that we are involved in. We're involved in the manufacture of superfoods, and we also do a lot of micronization. So we understand that when you particle reduce something, it's a three-dimensional function. So because your body's interacting with the nutrients at the surface area, the smaller the particle, the greater the surface area, the greater the uptake, and it's geometric, not just linear.
It is, and that's the wonderful thing about it. One of the things that, I don't know, I don't explain this to everybody, but one of the interesting things is when you nanosize something, one of the reasons they use mycelials or they use liposomes is to stop the particles from reagglomerating and getting back together. The particles, when you nanosize them, they have zeta potential and they want to come back together. It's like putting flour, a finely ground flour in water. It will clump, and it will clump very strongly.
Yes.
And so people put side chains, mycelials, different things to stop those particles from reagglomerating. One of the beautiful things about using water as opposed to a lipid is the lipid is good at isolating the particle, but the natural particle itself has an electrical charge. It has a frequency. If it's vitamin C, it says, I'm vitamin C. Water is the one thing in nature that stops it from reagglomerating. It's an insulator on the one hand, but the water itself transmits that frequency. And so the vitamin C particles, the whether it's CBD, they have these resonating frequencies that the cells recognize and the receptors will call for. And so that's why we love water. One of the other issues we like water as is the hydrosome mechanism is that one of the issues we see with a lot of elderly patients or cancer people, epileptic children, autistic children, is that they're chronically dehydrated at the cellular level. And so when you can put these nanoparticles in microclusters of water, you also get a huge added benefit in terms of cellular hydration, not bloodstream hydration. Right. And that increases energy, detoxification, cellular function. It does a lot of just additional benefits by virtue of having even 2 ounces of this hydrosome fluid a day makes a huge difference in people's lives and overall health conditions.
Awesome. We actually sell products, tools that help people to break down the clustering in water, prills and cupcakes and other devices that are working on the principle that's argon accumulator. It's stuff people generally don't understand, but that's what does it. And of course then the aquaporin channel is a fairly tight little thing. It would allow you only size of the finger to go through that opening. Oh, this is a bad gesture. Instead of something that's normally this size, so this will not pass, whereas something small will.
Yeah.
And that's what you're describing, is that when you're delivering the product in the way that you have it, it will utilize 100% of it instead of 3% as the competition might.
Right, exactly. And as you talked about the organ accumulator, we do feel that there's a tremendous benefit in the inherent frequencies and what it does to the overall environment as these frequencies are transmitted into the body and through tissue. And so it has some amazing effect beyond just the dosing. And so while people will sometimes make fun of us in terms of, well, there's only 1 milligram in it, what's that supposed to do? And that's what we call it as nano amplification effect. It does amazing things and interacts very quickly in the body.
Awesome. Well, I think we're done with the technical side of things. Scott, do you have any questions that come to you as you're listening to it from outside?
I do, actually. One thing you said early on was that you'd done some trials, so I was wondering if you could explain a little bit about the purpose of the trials and what some of the results were. And I was wondering also if you could give us an idea of, okay, I get, say, a Nano Shooter. Do I take a couple drops? Like, how much should I take? What should I do?
Sure. So the Nano Shooters are pre-dosed at 2 ounces per bottle. And that really is a daily serving. Some people might take 1 ounce in the morning, 1 ounce in the afternoon. Some people might, only take them before they go out for an event or something, if it's anxiety driven, if it's depression or something that they're dealing with. You can take it as needed. People that take it prophylactically, that want to take it every day, would normally just take the 2 ounces in the morning. But some people, depending on the dosing, even 2 ounces could be a lot, and so some people will take 1 ounce a day and find great effect with even smaller doses. So where the industry, when you talk about the CBD dosing that's common in the literature, where they're recommending people take 200 milligrams a day or 400 milligrams a day, and these mega doses, what we found is with increased bioavailability, I mean, we get down to 8, 16 milligrams. We're 1/10 or less of what these doses are. Partly because we get better bioavailability out of the stomach, and it's much more effective in the body. One of the issues we do face a lot is when we talk about the word nano, it tends to freak a lot of people out. There's something about they feel that nano is unnatural, and in some case it is. If you're nanosizing aluminum and putting it in cosmetic, if you're nanosizing carbon tubules, there are some things that I would not put in my body that are nanosized. But in reality, what we also try to do is educate people that nano is natural. Our bodies go through a nanosizing process itself. We chew things, We use saliva, we digest it in the stomach, we have enzymes in the intestines. They have to break things down to get them into the blood. And then in the blood, they're also metabolized in the liver and different organs, because at a cellular level, just because it's in the bloodstream does not mean it's going to be bioavailable at the cell. If the particle size is wrong, the liver and kidneys will just filter it out, and as fast as you could take, say, a vitamin supplement, your urine's going to turn yellow, and you're going to start filtering out the vitamin supplements as fast as you can take them. And so one of the things is when we take vitamin C, for example, we don't just measure serum vitamin C. We'll look at serum vitamin C, but I don't want vitamin C in the blood serum. I want vitamin C in the cells. And so instead of going to macro doses and these huge doses of intravenous IV vitamin C that people take, for example, we can get a very similar effect in terms of low dose oral consumption that's 100% bioavailable at the cellular level. And it's a natural process. It's a process that your body goes through anyway to nanosize things so they're available in the cell.
Okay, that's really cool. So you had mentioned that you had done some trials. Can you tell us a little bit about those?
Yeah, and so we've done different trials in terms of agriculture, in terms of animals. So for example, I know this isn't like super relevant, but we've done chicken studies with 7 to 10 million chickens, where if we give them a small dose of nanonutrients, an immune formula, we can have antibiotic-free chicken, we non-medicated feed, and over the same period of time in a controlled study, we add 0.6 of a pound onto that bird. We have better livability, better feed conversion ratios, fewer condemnations at the end, and plus there's this added value in the meat because now it's antibiotic-free, and these are healthier chickens. Tissue moisture is higher. It's wonderful in terms of its effect just by building the innate immune system of these chickens. We've done shrimp studies in terms of fighting the white spot virus that's common in shrimp farms, and we're able to increase the survivability by 70 to 80% of the shrimp, which also, if you make them healthier, you can then increase the density in the farms without cannibalism. We've done studies on agriculture with fertilizer. Fertilizer is a huge issue in terms of runoff and phosphates. We actually did a year-long study where we used 1/1500th the amount of fertilizer. And so we took 40 gallons of liquid fertilizer and we replaced it with 100 milliliters of fertilizer. So 40 gallons to 100 milliliters, whatever it is, half a cup. And we put that in hydrosomes. And we harvested that crop 3 months early, so 25% earlier, and we actually had higher NPK uptake into the plant tissue than the mega doses of fertilizer that they were normally applying. The whole idea of nanosizing some of these things for bioavailability, it turns the whole idea of mega dosing on its head, because it's not the idea of dosing. It gets back to how much is actually absorbed by the animal tissue, the plant tissue, or human tissue. And so we never focus on how much people are taking. We've also done studies, for example, one of the questions is, can we put anything in our water, the hydrosome? There's virtually nothing we haven't been able to do yet. And so, for example, one of the studies we did at a university here was we actually took antibodies, a biological thing. They have to be stored at -80 degrees. They have a very short shelf life at room temperature. We were able to put antibodies in our hydrosome, and we did a blind study with 5 different types of water and then a control group, and the antibodies were able to retard cancer growth. We were actually to penetrate the cancer cells. The antibody bound to the protein which causes cancer cells to divide, and we were able to actually retard and kill off cancer cells, and it was the only water that did it. And so being able to do an antibody, we've done testing with antibiotics in terms of antibiotic resistant bacteria. the one thing that every freaking bacteria needs or virus needs in the body is water. And so if you embed it in water, you can sort of do a Trojan horse delivery of different nutrients or antibiotics or things that have impact in terms of Lyme disease and some of the other things that you try to penetrate the biofilm. The bacteria will drink water, and so we have a whole nutrient delivery mechanism that allow us to sort of bypass that biofilm and deliver strategically important things into the bacteria as a bactericide, whether it's colloidal silver or whatever something people want to put in. We've also, one of the more exciting studies is there's a dye called propydium iodide, and it's used in staining dead cells in tissue cultures. Propydium iodide in and of itself does not penetrate a healthy cell. The particle is too big to penetrate the cell wall. We were able to nanosize the propydium iodide, and I'd love to show you a presentation about this later and show you pictures, but the propydium iodide in nanoform in the water was able to penetrate the cell within minutes, and it was an in vitro test. But one of the exciting things was once the nanosized propydium iodide got into the cell broke open the water, released the propydium iodide, and we were able to literally light up the nucleus of a cell. And so it was demonstrable proof, photographic proof, that not only could we deliver the nutrients inside the cell to the cytoplasm, but that the particle size then flowed through the nuclear membrane, and we could light up the nucleus. It opens up all kinds of things for epigenetics and gene expression, all kinds of things. Generally, that's sort of a pharmaceutical application for these things. But when you apply it to natural herbal ingredients, natural vitamins and minerals that the cells need for their structure, there is no better delivery mechanism than water and the hydrosome. And we're excited about it. I hope you can feel it. But
yeah, that's pretty exciting stuff.
I would actually like to just summarize, like you took it the long way around, but this propydium iodide that you just described, that
yes.
just so documents the fact that indeed the hydrosomes, the nano-sized water, is getting through, right? Because when you said I lit up the inside of the cell, that is exactly the point that you want to see, because whatever you're delivering into the cells, not just having it float around as in irrigation versus full hydration.
Absolutely.
Getting it.
Exactly.
Have you done any studies with the CBDs and different problems people have?
Not yet. We've actually started clinical studies at a university in Brazil. And they called us up. They were very interested. We've taken samples down. We have a MOU with them, and they've actually started clinical studies now in terms of understanding the impact that this could have on. And they're rat studies, and they're studying schizophrenia and catatonics and all kinds of mental disorders is where they're starting. But the initial results that we've seen so far, they're not published yet and not publicly available, but the initial studies we have are that our dosing, at our nano dosing, it's thrown their whole dosing studies on their heads. In essence, we're killing their mice in some ways. It's the dosing that they thought they understood doesn't work in terms of when you have a bioavailable form of CBD. And so that was the most exciting thing for us, is that we're starting to document the whole concept that more is better. More isn't better. If it's nano-sized and bioavailable, then actually you don't need, less is better. You don't need to take mega doses that just waste it. One of the issues is, again, CBD is expensive. It costs more than the price of gold per gram. But one of the issues is that these cancer patients, epileptic patients, mothers with autistic children, resources aren't endless. And so the idea is, from our side at Dose of Nature, it's our commitment that if we can get dosing down, use technology to amplify its effect, we can bring the price down, the cost down, that makes a lot more sense to some of these patients who are struggling financially. And so that's sort of our goal, is to not just sell them more, but to sell them smart, smaller dosing that actually makes a difference.
Exciting. I don't know. You have me speechless, really. It's great. The revolution is afoot.
I'd love for you to actually, not just the CBD, but I'm excited to send up some other products to you guys to sort of let you see what we have. Because I think, given the background that you've been studying and researching, some people get it at some level, but I think you'll, as you see more of the data, you'll really appreciate what we've been able to do.
Fantastic. I'm looking forward to working with our clients and getting them to understand how less is more.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much for joining us. Really appreciate all the wonderful information that you've shared with us today. And you've been listening to the Life Enthusiast Health Hangout, www.life-enthusiast.com. And we'll put some links below or above for where you can find out more. Yes, so you can find out more about these wonderful products and get started on restoring vitality to your health, because that's our motto: restoring vitality to you and to the planet. So thanks for joining us, everybody, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.